see what we got. Let the room fill up a little bit before we get going. Give it a couple minutes. Ooh. Oh. All right. Give it another minute. Before we get in today's topic, you gotta know love to show love. What does that mean? I'm gonna get after it today. Ooh. All right, we'll start it up. See who comes in. But anyway, so start off. Good morning. It's a beautiful week. Time to get this bad boy started. I was out in the White Mountains camping out this week and getting a little bit of isolation, a little bit of time to think and just get away from the droll of everyday society around here and get a little space. It's a good thing about nature though, once you get out there, it's always a good space for you to think. It's a good space for you to just really get some fresh air, right? That clean oxygen really makes a difference. We talk about epigenetics before, that communication between the environment and your cells, that's very, very major key. So, know love to show love. So, while I was out in nature, uh, I came across a black bear and the cub, right? So, it really made me think for a second because no love to show love. What does that mean, right? So, first thing I thought of when I saw it, I thought about your general nature of animals. So, if you have a dog, you have a cat, anything like that living in your house, you understand that there's a rationale and an idea that animals love themselves. And the way I say that is because they put their priority first. Like when you think of animals, you think of any animal. How do they clean themselves? How does an animal clean themselves? Right? They lick themselves repeatedly, right? Right? Over and over again. So that made me think, right? How many people are out here show ourselves any form of affection every day? And there's a vast, vast, vast kind of understanding when we say showing love to yourself, right? In this society, we kind of mix it up a little bit, right? You get a check, you have a tough day, you go and buy yourself something, right? That's your show of affection to yourself. However, when you go buy yourself something, then again you gotta dress it up or you gotta do something extra with it. When I talk about loving yourself, I talk about loving and love yourself, knowing love for how tough it is, knowing love like the bear and the cub, right? Because when you look at a bear and a cub in nature, when you look at mother and like child in nature, you see this beautiful nurturing to a point where even you see the bear licking its cub, the bear is cleaning its cub. That notion of love, right? Does a cub ever leave mama bear's side? Never, right? Because there's just that affection, that bond, that connection. Now, what am I talking about when I say you gotta know love to show love? Know love to show love is literally that expression of love towards yourself. That expression of love that I see when I see an animal licking itself clean, right? Animal licking itself, like if you don't love yourself, you wouldn't lick your body. A lot of us think we're nasty, right? How many of us would like lick your arm all the way up and down? Ugh, right? Yuck. Why is that yuck? Why are some of these things nasty? We're embarrassed And we find a culture where we have a lot of people that are embarrassed with themselves before they are actually accepting of themselves. There's this notion of embarrassment, of shame, of that's wrong, this looks wrong, I gotta. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a notion of improvement, we gotta be healthy. You have to be healthy in order to love yourself. That's a notion that lines up, right? Because what is like loving yourself more than making sure you're feeding yourself and giving yourself everything you need to be healthy, right? That's a notion of loving yourself. So we break down all of these different schematics that come through in society. We find a people that get kind of robbed of this notion of love, right? And the outward expression of it, right? The expression that we put into the real world then becomes facadal. Because when we look at the intrinsic love, the love for oneself, we find a facadal love there. We find a love that is full of making up for, a love that is using external things to equate love for oneself. Now, what I say is, I come back to that notion of buying yourself a nice outfit to show yourself I love myself. Oh, let me wear this kind, I'll look great in it. Now that's going to build your ego and your self-esteem, but is that what we really talk about when we say loving ourselves? Because first, when you love yourself, you have to know yourself. And that's a hard thing too, because we had a conversation last week, right, about association. So when we break down, that's why we are moving through this in a most. So what I associate with helps me define my love for myself, I guess, in society today, the way you look at it. So if I'm watching TV and I see certain things that I like on other people, I want those for myself. Now, when I can achieve the things that I see, then I start to love myself more, right? Like you like that Range Rover you see that rapper driving. So we work hard, we get the Range Rover. Now you love yourself because I put in all this effort to get that. Boom, we love ourselves, we love that. But then all of a sudden we see a Mercedes Benz that we like more right after. Right? So these notions of loving yourself, of love, become tainted. Right? So if we go even further, we go into the notion of marriage. You go into the notion of marriage, you go into the notion of engagement. Right? What are our symbols for marriage and engagement? A ring, a thing, a material. That's a symbol, right? Not the relationships, right? The relationship between the two people, just the bond and stuff there isn't the symbol anymore. We have an external symbol of this bond, an external symbol of this love. This thing has been taken away from the actual, right? And that's where we find this notion of love, loving yourself, loving others, right? I, in having to know myself, has to be acceptant and accepting of myself. Because once I can accept myself, then I know I can love myself. Because all of us are different people, right? A lot. So that takes a lot of work, right? It takes a lot of work to know yourself out here. That's why I say, go get your prenatal birth chart done. That helps at least give you a little bit of a frame of reference. For some of you guys who didn't do it, I have a link up on my Facebook. Um, if you want to go get your astrological chart done, you can go get it done there. Now that gives you like the schematics of your personality. And when you break it down, if you need any help with that, let me know. I can do all that stuff for you. I can help with your aspects, things of that nature. But you have to get a more of a wide conscious perspective of what is you. Because once I start realizing what is me and accepting my flaws, accepting the things that I lack, the things that I'm strong in, then I can start to develop a love for myself because I know myself. Because then you can know what to love and you know what you need to change, but all that becomes love, right? Because a lot of us don't even spend any time knowing who we are, right? We spend a lot of time associating with other things, right? To try and get a frame of reference of, ooh, am I like this? Am I like this? Am I like this? But we don't really get that notion of who organically we are first, how we organically deal with stressors, how we organically deal with certain problems. And once we start to understand those basic things, then you can start to really show yourself affection. Now, how do I show myself affection? How did I show myself affection today? All right, I showed myself affection today by eating a fantastic mango, right? Instead of going out and eating something that probably would have detrimented my body. So I told my body, yo, here's something fantastic. Made sure I drank some very good water, 8.8 pH. This is telling my body I love myself, right? I went on a nice walk. I got out in nature, right? Got my shirt off, let my body breathe, took in all that good prana, took in that vitamin D, all that beautiful stuff. Now, that is me showing my body I love myself. Because once you do these things, right, your body becomes relaxed. You start to calm down. A lot of us are so stressed out, but we never just take our shoes off, put our feet in the grass, let our body just get some sun, get some oxygen, right? We're always wearing all this clothes, right? Our body has pores. We need to breathe too, right? I know some people go through their day and they never touch grass, right? They never put their feet on the grass. They never get out in the sun. These things are essential, right? If I had the Wi-Fi and stuff outside, I'd be doing this outside because that's where you need to be, right? We were made to be out in nature. We were made to be outdoors. We weren't made to be in these squares, right? We're in squares. We're in a grid, right? A self-sustaining manifested grid, right? We got to be outside. There's no squares in nature. There's a reason for that, right? Nature is wholesome. Learn nature, go feel it, right? So loving yourself is the key to loving someone else. Because when I love myself, right, I start to realize that within that, I can't have everything that I want, right? Because if I have everything that I want, at some point, I'm going to do a detriment to myself, especially in today's day and age, right? That's hard, right? Just think of that one notion right there. Being able to love yourself is accepting that you cannot have every single thing that you want. That's going to change. That changes a lot of relationships right there. That changes a view upon yourself. Because we live in a society, again, in a time and a culture. Because when I say this, there's differences in there. There are people who have different feelings. People think for themselves, giving themselves all they want. Exactly, right? Just because I want that steak, right? If I go eat that bad boy, that doesn't mean that I'm showing myself that I love myself. Because what do we find when we watch, again, documentaries, things like this? I'm having trouble digesting that. My body isn't really acting as efficiently as it should on that. So I'm actually showing my body that I don't really love myself. I don't really know myself because if I knew myself and I knew my genetic makeup and I knew all these different things, then that wouldn't be the thing that I go for to show my body I love myself. Now look at the mango. Mango is one of the most alkalinic fruits you can get, right? Mangoes taste delicious, right? For all those people who love sugar, you love sugar because you love fruit, right? That's why they made the synthetic version. So now I don't really like fruit as much. I go for the sugary sweet, right? But that mango is showing me everything. It's alkalizing my body. It's helping my digestion. It's evening out my blood pressure. All these beautiful things. Yeah, that's how you show your body you love yourself, right? Very plain and simple. Doing things of that nature, things that push you forward. Get some good water in you. Like how many of us just are drinking water that we don't really know? Again, like what? Get one of these for your house, right? pH strip tester. Your body needs to be at 7 to 7.5 pH, right? To be working in homeostasis, right? To be working at its top form, right? So if my body needs to be at 7 to 7.5, where do you get that? You can get them at Whole Foods, get them online, right? That you get them anywhere you want. You just rip out a little pH, boom, and then you can test. If you really want to get nuts with this and like be really on it, you can actually test your pee with it. All right? But you do it in the morning because the morning is when all that acid has been stagnant, so you know what you're working with for the day. Right? But these things are a great tool for anyone. Try to shop online, but Whole Foods, thank you. No problem. Whole Foods is a great place to go. So just being able to be knowledgeable about that. Like where does your water rank in on the pH level? So is my water adding to my alkalinity or is it deterring me? Right? These are basic things because we know now that no sickness, right? No disease can live in an alkaline environment. Wait a second. Yes, that's why we have people curing different forms of cancer, colon cancer, things like that on alkaline water products, alkaline water fasts, right? They do this because your body, once it's in, your body was made to live. Like all your cells do every day is keep you alive, respiration, all these different things. They're trying to keep you alive. So I have to give them the best median, right, to do that. It's like when we have petri dishes, right? If you have certain chemicals in petri dishes and you put cells in, they'll either die or they can expand, right? So if I know that my body has to be between 7 to 7.5 for the cells to be comfortable and to be working at their top notch, then anything I do that keeps me away from that, I'm deterring my health, right? Simple fact is that. That's why, again, I posted on my Instagram yesterday the combination food list to help you guys start getting a notion of food combinations. Now, the problem with this information and all this stuff is either you have nutritionists who went to college for 4 years or something like that, and they feel too slighted because they got all these bills. They're not going to give you information for free. That's not how this works, right? Because they were in school for this long and read these books and they got bills to pay. So you can't get a lot of great nutrition info readily available. Now, online, if you know where to look, you can find some. I have a few books if anyone wants them. I could give you guys the links to those. But your alkalinity really helps you. Now, how does that help me with loving myself? That notion of no love to show love. If my body is in a state of alkalinity, right, my mood is better. Right? My mood is just naturally better. I have more energy, I'm more vital, I can do things. Now, the happiness and all that, no more anxiety, your emotions can easily flow now. Now you can start to, once you start treating your body right and you show your body, like if I'm reading all day about the benefits of this fruit or the benefits of doing this, and then I go and do it, my body knows that because consciously that's me. So my body knows that I'm trying to reward it. I'm trying to do good things for it. So all I'm going to do now is be a reflection of my reality. If my reality is attempting to be healthy and loving towards my vessel, right? My reality expresses that. So my body's going to show me that. My body's going to change for me. My body's going to do all these little things because you are your perception. Your perception is your reality. So what you do with your reality reflects on who you are. Simply. So, how does this work in society today? How do we work? How do you know love to show love? All these different things. Now, how does this change the show love portion? So, with my show love, I'll start to understand that love is conditional because my body is conditional. Loving myself is conditional. Love is not unconditional. That was wise words I heard. Nature Boy dropped those on me one time and I was, whoa, right? Love is conditional. Love always has to be conditional. Because if love becomes unconditional, you might get taken advantage of. Because conditions form relationships, conditions form contractual agreements, right? Why do you make a contract and put terms? Because it's conditional. There has to be a certain way and a certain mindset that when we go into this, okay, we have the form set up so we can excel. That's no different with your body and then the representation of you because your partner and the way you treat your partner just becomes a reflection of how you treat yourself. So if I love myself, I take time understanding myself. I take time to what do you think I'm going to do with the person who steps into my life? You're going to again reflect that onto them. So however that means. Now, today in this world, there's a lot of different things that veer you off course. Courses get weird because there's so many different stimuli, all these different things, all these different people, all these different opinions, all these different goals that we're all trying to set. Because within your realm, you have to remember there's other people moving and trying to achieve their goals and stuff. Again, that's why astrological birth charts help. Now, when I say these things, people get all like, oh, voodoo-y. It's not like that. You have to have a parameter of who these people are, because most people find that when they do a real prenatal birth chart, not just your sun sign, when you figure out the whole thing, you start, like, you really will find yourself in it. You'll find things about yourself. Now, some things may be a little far-fetched, some things may be a little off, right? But most of the time, you get a really good parameter. Like, just that's what you need. That's why when you go into a relationship with someone, it's good to do that sometimes too, because you can get a parameter, you get a vision a little bit, then you can find out the intricacies. So at least you can be like, okay, he might be like this, she might be like this, so I know where I might take a win or a loss, but it makes sense. I'm going to jump in, right? Or I'm going to try it out. So if I love myself, I take time with myself. So everything you do should be conditional, right? Who are you hanging out with? That should be conditional. You shouldn't just hang out with everyone, right? Because I have no love, so now I'm going to show love. So I'm going to make sure that I only am around people that I can show love to, that I can give love and want to actively receive love from. That can be friendships, things like that. You have to be guarded, right? You have to be a little bit guarded. Because if anyone who's just an open door is open for good and bad all the time, love is conditional. Love is conditional, right? So, since my body has rules and conditions, a relationship between two bodies has to have rules and conditions. So once we start to define love for ourselves, what love for ourselves means, what our principles are, what our goals are, how we operate, then it makes us so much easier, right? It makes it so much easier to accept someone in a different love, right? A different person with all their things. Because I know I'm good now. I'm personally good. So if you want to come in, cool, right? But we don't get to that point. And then to just cap it off, we have a lot of societal pressure to then do exterior shows of love, which compensate now for the truth, right? So I can go buy flowers and bring you flowers. Now I might not know real shit about like how I'm gonna treat you or how to be in a relationship, but I could get you flowers and you're gonna think of me as a gentleman. They got like they got you. That's not really true. Don't cut with the flowers. If you were really about it, you'd be like, yo, why would you cut those flowers? They're just gonna die, right? But we get caught in the symbolism of this stuff. Symbolism and actuality, we know, are two different things. The symbol of a ring sounds nice, right? It's eternal, but what does it really come down to now? We look at a society that's really just fully, solely based. We have Say Yes to the Dress. We have all these different freaking shows. I could just keep going with all the different bridal engagement shows where now the ring has taken precedent over the relationship. I would love to see the study. I know for a fact that divorce rate is up, right? I know it's been up in the last like 20, 30 years. But I love to see the correlation between this infatuation with the purchase of this perfect ring, right? And the correlation of divorce. I guarantee you they probably work together. Because what does that mean? What do these things mean? We have to figure out if these things serve us. Again, this is part of that reclaiming dominion. Do all these establishments, do all these notions and things like that serve you? Is it so important for me to always get a commitment right away? Are these commitments even worthy of making? And these are things that we have to start to make sense of. Because if I don't know myself, then I don't know how to view a commitment in the first place. I might not be ready for a relationship, right? That might not be my thing because if I don't love myself, I can't love another. So I got to take a look at what we're getting into with these rigs. Like, we got to take a look at what we're getting into. Men are spending thousands and thousands of dollars for an external expression of their love between two people, something that's an intrinsic feeling. Now, what does that equate to, right? What does that equate to? Nothing really, because we see people with beautiful rings in terrible marriages. So if we see people with beautiful rings in terrible marriages, that should tell you that the ring does not equate for the bond. The ring is just an outward expression. It's just something that we created. It's a creation in society. We got to get rid of that notion. I want to see more people who just don't define their relationship, but I can just see are in a happy relationship. I could see love each other. You could feel that love, right? You ever been around married people and sit down and just be like, yo, how the fuck do they spend days like how are they together? They look miserable. That's the thing we have to think of. But when you look at some of the things they got working, they're like, whoa, they got the rings, they got this, they got the his and hers cars, they got couples goals stuff, right? What's a couples goal? Couples goal for me would just be like, yo, I can stand this person every single day. I can deal with being around them. We really don't fight that much. You know, our morals lined up. We don't really do too like that's like a goal. We don't have goals like that. No one just sets comparable goals. We want these elaborate external goals. Like we got this together. We got this. Instead of we share like this. I see like these funny tweets sometimes like if you love her, buy her designer. If you love her, get her this. If you love her, buy her roses. If you love her, take her out to eat. If you love her, like no. I just look at it, I laugh sometimes because why are we doing these things? Because I love you, right? Me and you are gonna be on we're gonna be on a tip. I don't gotta do anything, really, besides what we just would naturally do if you're really on that level with someone. When you bond with someone, you don't need to really do anything but just be you because that is what the relationship is foundational. The foundation is on. Just be yourself. You don't have to feel the need to go and do anything extra, right? If I go and get you a pair of Gucci flip flops, what is that doing for you? Gives you something nice to put on your feet, right? Some people say it makes me think of them. If you're not thinking about me already, I've been messing up as it is, right? I should need to get you an outward expression of our bond. Our bond should just be there, right? So that's why when you look at these old cultures, look at Native Americans, for example, right? You do some research into how their houses were kept. First of all, the woman would rule the roost in those relationships. So with the woman ruling the roost, men could just when a woman was done with a man, she'd just leave his stuff outside. He'd pick it up, boom, and he'd move on. That was it. Because they understood that relationships are based on the bond. It's not based on the ties, the outward expressions of the relationship. It's based on the actual thing. So once that actual thing got weird, it was okay to let it move on. Because that's what this is naturally about. Like, not everyone is just going to be following the same path, right? The narrow path is tough. And people to be walking on one narrow path together their whole life, that's a very far fetched idea. Now, it happens. It definitely happens. I'm not saying that love and all these things aren't real because they are real. Having a real bond with someone, that's a real thing. There is a lot of examples of that. There are beautiful examples of people who get together. But that can't be the pressure from the beginning. The pressure from the beginning is to be, let's develop this bond. Like, do you love yourself? Do I love myself? Okay. Now, once we've established if we both have that sense for ourselves, now we can build this together. That's why I think we spend too much time trying to define. Like, you look at what was one of the biggest things that Facebook did, like, one of the biggest innovations Facebook had was to be able to tell if you were single, together, it's complicated, like, all these different weird things. So, people are so quick to define. Again, we talked about last week grouping mentality, the idea that the mind likes to group. We like to group things. It's easier for us to stereotype and group. However, we lose in it. Yeah, we lose when we're constantly doing that. We lose that organicness, right? Everyone's talking about organic food. Like, no, have some organic relationships. Have an organic understanding. I don't need to tell you and show the public anything about my relationship because I hope that if you see me with that person, you're going to just know. You'll be like, whoa, okay, okay, I can just see, like I can tell that's real. They don't need like I don't need to post pictures. I don't need to post pictures of anyone that I love and I'm with because I know that I love them. They know that I love them. Why do I need to tell everyone? If you guys see me and you have the fortune to see me with them, you'll see exactly what that means, right? We have a respect. You have to have a respect. It's all about that respect, that back and forth. And that's where we miss out in society today because we try and peg someone in, right? Someone might not need the reins on them right away, right? Some of us are slow to get into relationships. Some of us fall fast. With all these different notions, you need to be able to weigh out because sometimes people fall fast and then they puff off. But if I'm spending so much time defining and then creating around this definition, I could all of a sudden get very hurt because I've been spending so much time within this thing, this notion of a relationship that's not the reality of the relationship. That's where we are breaking off. That reality, realness, real, real love, real expression of love, real, because we try and fit people into these cooked up notions of things, right? No two people's relationship is the same. So should every person be defining themselves as this? What does a boyfriend mean? Boyfriend or girlfriend means like, yo, if I'm calling you this all the time, you probably can't have another one of those. Right? If I call you my girlfriend a lot, that probably means I can't have another female friend. But because we don't understand the relationship of these things. What's a girlfriend? I have plenty. You have plenty of girlfriends out there. Like, no, it's just that's my person, right? That's me. I don't need to say. I don't need to define you. You don't need to have a special name for yourself. You just need to know, like, if I show up at your house 9 out of 10 days, this shit matters, right? This shit matters. If we both have a agreement on a feeling for one another, that's it. That's all you really need to move on. But in these definitions, people start to feel trapped or entrapping people because sometimes not every person fits into the exact demographic of these type of relationships, of these notions of relations. Because relations just how you relate to someone else. So if I know someone, I can form a relationship based on them relative to me. Now, them relative to me may not be the same as me relative to someone else. So I can't define my relationship the same way with this person that I would with this person because we don't relate in the same way. So having one secular notion of relationships, right, to fix and be the schematic for every way we can relate with all these different beings. Again, the cool thing about astrology is you could see the different energies that make people, right? I had someone send me their chart the other day. I was like, whoa, this person is lit. I get along with this person great, right? Because you could see it, and then when you talk to them, it's like, whoa, yeah, it's true, right? How I relate to these energies because there are different energies that come from a million different people, but it's how you can relate with that energy. That means that if you can move the relationship forward or not. And that has to only be defined between the two people. That's the problem with social media today is that we let out other outside influences, outside outlets relate and define relationships between two people, right? And that can't happen. That can't happen because my relationship is how I relate to you. Same thing with friendships. My relationship is how I relate to you. So my relationship with one friend usually is different than my relationship to another friend, right? Yeah, because we relate in different ways. However, if I have a girlfriend and I can only relate to her in certain ways where I have to buy her things, take her out to eat, but like that doesn't fit how we relate. Truth. It doesn't make sense. I can't relate to her within a schematic that's not made for the way I relate to this person individually, right? I have to be able to define my relationship based on how we relate. And that's a hard thing for us today because it's hard to step back and allow for ourselves to deny some of these conditions because it's a conditioning fact, right? It's a notion of conditioning. It's not a notion of realness. And that's why we have to bring our relationships to reality. So you and your partner should be able to talk about anything. Your relationship should be defined by what you guys come up with. So if you want to make up a completely different word to call your partner other than boyfriend or girlfriend, that should be fine. That's what you should do, right? Because boyfriend and girlfriend is lame because we know what the subset structure of that is. That's Valentine's Day, that's Christmas, that's go out to eat a few times a week, that's doing this, that's buying her stuff, that's her buying you stuff. No, F all that, right? Right away, you just gotta fuck that. No, me and you are gonna sit down. Let's see how we hang out. Let's see the things that we like. That's how we relate ourselves. Now, once I related to you in that way, I don't need to give you any other commitment because we both acknowledge, okay, I like you, you like me right now. Everything that we do is making each other happy. That's where we're relating at because our activities, our actions, our personalities are raising each other up, right? So I don't need to put another commitment on it, right? Because what's the difference technically between a girlfriend, like a fiance, and a wife in society today? Just the rings you put on, right? They're the same exact notion. There's no difference in the relation between the two. Relatively, you're doing the same things. Relatively, it's the same, it's supposed to be the same exact way. Now, within that, you can define these things in different ways, right? If I'm just with you, like, I don't need to marry, so I can just be with them my whole life. And if we just get along, we're technically married. That's my wife. I know it. If I'm with you forever, if I'm just with you, we don't need to put a ring on. I'll just call you my wife. Why? Because that's how real, like, that's a bond. That's more than an outward expression of love, right? However, we need these things to help to make up for the fact, to help us feel better. Because a lot of us in our relationships feel like we need something else to prove to ourselves that this is real. Because at times we're not sure about it, right? Like, can you give me something a little bit extra? Yes. Yes. Right? That's where we talked about that earlier, right? The notion of how the ring, where we're at with buying rings and the infatuation with rings has been like a direct correlation, I believe, to the divorce rate. Because the divorce rate's up in the last 30, 40 years. And the idea of I love these rings and everyone paying all the attention, this ring is way up too. So we see that, right? If you need any other outward expression besides that person being with you and that relationship that you guys have to make you feel better, make you feel that they're there, then you need to know that that's not a relationship for you. Hop out of that ship. Get in a new vessel, right? Get in a new vessel. If you have to look for all these different, if you need them to put your name on their Facebook so that you can feel better about being with them, then you know that that's not a relationship for you. You need to step out of that relationship because they don't got your back. Because what are you supposed to feel in relationships? Secure, right? Understood. All of these different notions. Now, do you need a title to feel understood and secure? No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't. You should feel secure in the relation, in the ship, right? With them. In relativity to that person, I feel secure. So I don't need any other outward expression from you, right? I don't need anything else. All I need is you because if you're giving me the security, boom, I'm good, right? But that's where we get that notion of people feel taken advantage of. People feel drained in relationships, right? Like, yo, I'm giving this girl everything I want, or I'm giving this guy everything I want, but they always want more. They always need something extra, right? And this is where we're building it because we're taking it outside of the relative notion and we're placing it into a societal notion. We're placing it into a culture based notion, not just the relativity. Because people, I see a lot of couples beautiful when it comes to the relativity, right? They relate to each other in such a great way. However, when you bring it to the societal standards, they feel this pressure like, yo, we gotta do this. Yo, we always gotta be doing something other than just relating. Because if you're doing a great job in relating and you just keep moving in that relating, everything works, right? You never need another expression. You never need anything else. Because as long as within us we're good, all that shit is nothing. It's noise, right? So knowing yourself, you gotta know love to show love, right? So I have to know love. I gotta know how to love myself. I gotta know what love is. I gotta know what that notion is, right? Go back to the notion of animals, right? Animals lick themselves to clean themselves. That means they love themselves, right? You can't lick yourself you can't lick yourself if you don't love yourself because you'll think you're nasty. If you think you're nasty and won't lick you don't love yourself, right? Animals know that shit. That's why nothing is more beautiful than watching an animal in nature nurture its child. Nothing's more beautiful, right? That's the most pristine notion of nurture, right? That we have. We always think about that, like the koala with the baby, or like the kangaroo, right? Because you see that love there, because you know that an animal, they know how to nurture, because they nurture themselves. You don't see animals eating shit that's bad for them. You don't see animals that do things that deter their life. They're like, yo, I want to live, so I gotta do everything to make sure I live. So I gotta make sure I'm doing everything healthy. I'm staying away from this area. I'm staying away from these type of people, these type of animals, right? To make sure that I'm healthy as hell. So then when you see that baby come in, they're like, oh yeah, yeah, you're like, I love you, but you gotta know you can't do everything, because if I let you do everything, then I don't love you, right? Love is conditional, right? Loving yourself, understanding yourself, all of these different beautiful things. Because once you start to define that, then everything becomes easy. Then any way that I relate to anyone else will be beautiful, right? Because it'll be love. Because if I love myself, then any relation I'm giving to someone comes out of the love of me, right? So as I reflect on them, it's love there too. Because all we are reflections to one another. That's why you can love someone and someone could not like that same person. Because you just see in them what you are. You just see in them, like, oh, I love him, I love her, because I see myself in them, right? But if you don't like something about yourself and you see that in another person, you don't like that. You're like, oh, I don't like that. I don't like that person. But usually it's because there's something about that, like you do too, you don't really like, because that's about comes from you, right? It's your perspective. So we gotta start to understand these little mechanics of society, because that's how we work. We don't understand our brain, like our perception base. Look up to the holographic universe. Look up all these different notions now. Idea, like understand quantum physics. Understand all these different rationales so you can understand the mechanics of your mind. Astrology, understand the mechanics of energies that are moving around. Then you can start to really define relationships, right? Do these things. It's beautiful, right? The world's a beautiful place. Everyone's beautiful. There's so much love out there to be shared. But it's just about defining yourself so you can then define the ship that you guys are going to sail away on, right? Because it's a relationship. It's a vessel. We're moving in this bad boy. We're going from one place to another together. So, with that being said, that was today's check-in, right? You got to know love to show love. Remember that, right? Drop some dimes. Thank you guys for checking in. I love you all and I love myself, right? Have a great day.